So I think I'm just gonna make a video of my random thoughts because I've got a lot of videos I was supposed to make and a lot of stuff's been going on and I'm just not catching up. So first and foremost today, Jessica Walter died. Now, I immediately started crying when I saw that. I mean, I didn't even realize she was almost 80. I probably would have thought she was 70 or something. Of course, she played Lucille Bluth on Arrested Development, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. I didn't watch the first season when it ran. I caught up on it like on I guess they were having a marathon one weekend. So then the next year, or maybe it was in the middle. I think it might have been in the middle of the first season. That's what happened. And then I mean the show was amazing. And then the second season, there was all that trying to save the show, save our blues, that started getting incorporated into the show. And there was just like 4 million of us crazy people who just desperately loved that show and didn't want it to be canceled. And then, of course, it was. And I cried that day. And I remember the last episodes were the same day as the opening ceremony for the Winter Olympics that year. I think it was the Torino Olympics. And which is crazy because the Winter Olympics is one of my other favorite things. So I was like not knowing which to watch. But and then 2 weeks later, when the Olympics were over and TV went back to normal, and it was Monday, and it was time for it to be on, but it wasn't on anymore, I cried again. You know, now Jessica Walter as Lucille Bluth was, yeah, I mean, they were all great, but, you know, she reminded me of my mom. And in some ways, I kind of like want to be like her in a way. Um, I mean, my mom watched the show with me, so you know, but so it's sad because now she reminded me of my mom. Now she died too, and I'm just like, I know her husband. I liked her husband too. I didn't realize they were married until a little while ago. Ron Liebman was he was in a lot of stuff. He was like in Rhinestone and um all these weird movies I like Zorro the Gay Blade, you know. So I knew he had died. I guess he died at the end of 2019, and so now she's gone to meet him, but I just felt so bad because she was so great on Arrested Development, and I mean it's not really her joke, but my favorite joke is actually the first one on the whole show, where I mean Jason Bateman does the punchline where she goes, "Look what the homosexuals have done to me," and then he's like, "You can't just what does he say? You can't just brush it out and reset it." The show, I mean, it has so many great things, but so many of them are hers. Um, you know, and I was watching the clips on YouTube of all the. I mean, I've got the DVD right over here, but you know, it's the quality people are leaving. They're always leaving, and then what we're left with is kind of crappy. I mean, of course, everybody's been talking about the Snyderverse, and now they want to restore the rest of the Snyderverse, and I'm like, I don't even like the Snyderverse. From the beginning, I don't like it. And I'm just sitting there saying to myself, you know, I like Henry Cavill as Superman. I remember when they were talking about how they were going to do all these things with Ben Affleck, and he was going to like write it and direct it and star in his own Batman stuff. And then he was supposed to be working with one of the comic book guys, some guy named Jeff Johns, and I don't know if they had a problem. But then Ben had his own personal problems, and I kind of felt like that derailed everything in a way. But then you had this stuff with the whole Zack Snyder thing, and it would have been interesting if Ben had done his own movies. Um, and the fact that it's just, I mean, it was basically Zack Snyder. Joss Whedon did come in to do that, but I gotta say it again, there are other people. You know, I mean, I think James Gunn tomorrow is going to have a trailer for Suicide Squad. Now, I didn't even watch Suicide Squad. Again, I looked at that the trailers for it, and I was like, I don't want to watch that. It looks dirty and dingy. It looks like it's, the whole thing is inside like a smoky, trashy bar. I know I'm not going to like that movie just by looking at it because You want movies to look nice. I'm sorry. I want movies to look nice, or at least look regular. I don't want to dirtyify everything. I don't want to look at the trash. I don't want to see the crappy people all the time. It's got to be something good to it, something pleasant. So, I just feel like when they're talking about DC or Marvel or Star Wars, you literally have universes to deal with. You could do anything. You know what I mean? Like I said with the Superman movies, it seems like they have the worst, or movies with Superman in it, it seems like they have the worst time finding a villain. Again, I didn't read the comic books, but come on. You know, let's say they have all those years of comic books and there's not one decent villain besides Lex Luthor in it. Make one up. A human type. It doesn't have to be some alien bug person or whatever. It can be human. There could be a bad guy on Earth that Superman needs to deal with. You know? If you're going to do things different, then do it different. Don't just be like, I'm going to make it all morose, but stick to the comic books. Like I said, okay. So, if they're done with Zack Snyder, they could have somebody else do another movie with or without the cast that's already there. But a lot of people would like to a lot of people really like Ben Affleck as Batman. He's fine. Without reading the comic books, just watching cartoons and stuff, I could tell that the way they've drawn Batman for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, or maybe since forever, Ben Affleck had the right build out of all the actors, because actors generally aren't that huge. He's like 6'3" or something, and he's a big guy, So for people who like the comic books in that way, I think that's why they like him so much in the role, because he looks the part. Again, like I said, Henry Cavill looks the part, but you didn't get to see him act. So apart from these guys looking the part, they haven't had much to do. And there's got to be a person out there in this world who could write a story that's compelling and have the same people in it with the same structure and, studio and, effects artists and people doing the scores and stuff like that. Why you would have to make it we gotta stop now and start over again? Why they always have to start over again? Even I like Tom Holland, I do, but when they're constantly getting new Spider-Mans, you know what I mean? I feel like I've always felt like we grew up with Superman. You didn't have another Superman for 20 years, so a new generation got a Superman, and that was fine. But then they got another Superman like that. And like I said, how many Spider-Mans? And the kid isn't even old yet. They come out with the cartoon one. What was it called? Into the Spider-Verse? And then when people come out of that movie wanting all kinds of different Spider-Mans. And it's like, why can't one actor have the role, have a good run all the way through different stages of the character, and then have that be for that generation, and then if they want to bring the character back in 20 years for a new generation of kids, then do that, So, I mean, if it was me in the case of this stuff, I would say keep the people they have and just try somebody else. See if anybody else has any ideas. There's plenty of directors. I think I had even read that Christopher McQuarrie and Henry Cavill had gone to them with an idea. If Henry was that jazzed about the Snyderverse, would he have done that? If he was that jazzed with his role, would they have, tried to pitch an idea? I don't know. But what's wrong with, another creative person having an idea? And that seems to be the problem. They can't be creative. Like they're stuck to the books or something? I don't know, but I just feel like in all these things, like with Star Wars, and when they came back with the sequels, I can't say that, the instinct for the people was to do a retread. of the original trilogy. And I was like, why though? Why can't you? You've got the whole galaxy far, far away. Why can't you do stories from all over the place? Why can't you make up Jedi or characters we've never heard of, planets we've never heard of? Why do you have to stick to what was always there? Because those things weren't always there. Somebody had to come up with it, you know? So I just feel like for what is supposed to be happening, there's a lot of stuff that's just, I don't know, not very interesting. Hang on a second. I'll be right back. So, thinking about movies going forward at all, I mean, as a movie fan, having watched the pandemic play out, I thought to myself, the last movie I saw in the theater was The Gentleman, which is a while back. Why is this not focused? I thought that, I'll accept that that's the last movie I'm ever going to see in the movie theater, in the end of the world kind of a way. But once they started closing everything down, I'm not a history buff. I'm not a genius, but you just know that in the past, when people take emergency powers, when they, from all the books and movies we've seen, once they start locking people down, they don't open back up. So they're trying. I don't know how much of it is pretend, but movies are not going to come back the way they were. And if they don't come back the way they were, I don't know how they're going to make money. So I kind of feel like if there's going to be movies in the future, like movie going, again, these kind of things are going to be for the rich. And everybody else is going to be at home streaming or something like that if they can, And in terms of going out, maybe it'll be very expensive and very shishi poo poo. Maybe it'll be like dinner theater, but with movies instead. So you'll have, $100 dinners and, champagne as you're watching, a Marvel superhero movie. Because otherwise, how are the theaters going to survive with fewer people? Because they're never going to let the numbers of people back in altogether, because they're still, the reasons they locked us down, they're testing their number of cases, all that stuff that shouldn't have locked us down. They're still going by that, and everything's calming down. To me, that calmed down because they were concentrating on giving people vaccines instead of counting the cases. So they just stopped counting. Just like somebody said once, they stopped testing, they stopped counting the cases because they were so busy delivering the vaccines, getting the shots in arms. So they stopped paying attention for a minute. Now they start testing people again. They start testing people who've been vaccinated, and people are still getting the number of cases is rising, meaning more than when they probably weren't counting for the last month or two. And that's going to indicate to them that they need to shut down again. They've done that overseas already. On their fourth wave, I think they are in Paris and France and Italy. So if they keep having the same criteria of why we all have to stay inside, why people have to not go to the theater, why kids can't go to school, then they're going to keep shutting everybody down. And at some point, they'll be like, we can't keep going back and forth. Forget it. Stay home forever. So that's why I don't see a real situation, like I said, unless it's for the shishi poo poo rich people with their vaccine passports and their proof of immunity or something that will allow them to go. I don't see theaters coming back. Like I said, I was a movie buff in terms of I prefer having the money and the resources to go to the theater, to the point where if there was a fancy pants movie that I really wanted to see up in Boston, I would do that, I would go up there. I'd make, what I used to do, especially around award season, like December and stuff like that? I would go one day up to Boston and I would try to squeeze in 3 movies, So I would go like first thing in the morning and I'd get there. I'd try to see a movie at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then maybe something, at 4. and then take like a late bus, like an 8 o'clock bus back home. That way there, the bus fare wasn't too much, and it was cost effective to go to and get in those kind of movies that just didn't play here. I did that quite a bit over the years, but even that was becoming a drag before this happened. So now we're in a situation where I don't see it going forward. I don't see them even making the kind of movies that they used to. So all this talk and everything of when these people want to restore the Snyderverse, I'm like, are there going to be movies? You know what I mean? Is there going to be? Because if there's not theaters and, you know, the studios aren't making box office, because, okay, in case you don't know, this is how it's always gone. When you make a huge movie, right, it costs X amount of dollars. So let's say you make a huge blockbuster, right, and it costs like $200 million to make the thing. That's, you know, the one price. But then there was the price to advertise the thing, and it was almost, a lot of the time it was almost the same, you know, price tag as just making the movie in the first place. So you had to do all that, you had to distribute it, all that stuff. So you have a massive movie, it could cost the studios $400 million just to put the thing out there. Now, if everything's streaming and they're not making money like people $20 a pop for a ticket, and people aren't going to go back all the time to have that theater experience, people will be stupid if they do it. I can't see them doing it. Why would people? I don't know how Wonder Woman did. I mean, this was all new. People were desperate for the Wonder Woman 1984. People were desperate to see a new movie. So I don't know how well it did, but I can't believe it was good enough to send a signal for people to continue doing business in this way. One second. So, to me, that says the kind of movies everybody's talking about, you know, discussing all the DC Marvel movies, those are the ones that won't get made. And people like Martin Scorsese, who were, you know, hating that sort of thing, calling them roller coasters or whatever, could rejoice because now you have a situation, except he wants the theater experience, so he's going to be pissed too. But they could rejoice because the kind of movies that people will be more apt to see on a streaming service do not need the stereo sound, do not need the big screen. You know, you could watch a movie, Woody Allen movie, you could watch a Bergman movie, you could watch, I mean, you don't want to watch it on a phone, but you don't lose as much visually as you would something like Avengers Endgame, especially movies that play in 3D and everything. So those are the movies that will be economical. Because let's say, I don't even know how much a Woody Allen movie costs to make. Say it costs like $10 million, $15 million. That's nothing. If you make a movie like that and you pay for that and you put it on your streaming service, you're going to make that money back. And it's going to sit there and it's going to be a quality picture. And people all over the place are going to hear about it. They're going to watch it. If you spend a huge hunk of money on some big blockbuster that might fail, I mean, the whole reason was that when you have the theater people go to the theater that first weekend, they don't know about it yet. They don't know it sucks yet. So you always get that first weekend anyway. That's how something like Captain Marvel succeeds. People can come out And a lot of people be iffy on it, and therefore it wouldn't have got word of mouth. But it doesn't matter, because everybody already showed up, because it's part of that larger context of, the setup to the last two Avengers movies. And it was sort of built in that it would have a huge opening weekend. So without having the huge opening weekend anymore, what's the point? If you can't have a tentpole, you're not going to have blockbusters, meaning people lined up around the block. So not lining up anywhere, they're sitting in their house. How is it economically sound to spend all that money on actors and costumes and, you know what I mean, all the stuff it normally takes to make all the kind of superhero business go on, green screen and, fight choreography and extras and, all the stuff that, and special effects, all the stuff that counts for most of the budget. Why would you need that? You know what I mean? Why would you want to spend that kind of money if you're not going to get it back? Because I don't know how much they actually make streaming or stuff like Netflix or Disney Plus or HBO Max. I don't know how much box office you make, because people are not going to sit in their house and spend movie ticket money to see a movie once. Because you have to know that a lot of movie box office, it counts for repeated viewing. So if there's, I don't even know how it works, I didn't do it. If people bought a ticket to see Wonder Woman, were they able to keep watching it? Or did they have to watch it just the one time? Because I can't see people saying, okay, well, I'll spend $15-20 to watch this movie in my house once. I can't see people doing that. If you're going to charge them $20, that's the price of a DVD. They should get to keep it and play it for as long as they want. Have the license to play it for as long as they want. If people are just renting the movie for a day or a week, or why would they pay all that kind of money when just for the basic subscription they've been paying for other stuff? Now they may try to hike up the price of subscriptions, but that'll just get people to do something else. You know what I mean? They'll clean their house, or they'll make a garden. You know what I mean? If they're home and stuck, you're not gonna force people to spend more money than they already do. So I don't see the future there, because it's not coming. To me, it's not coming back. As much as they're trying to pretend we're gonna come back, like I said, if anything, only the rich, and I mean the 1%. I do not mean the upper echelon of the 99%. I don't mean people with who make $100,000 a year. I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about the ultra rich, because they've broken the economy so bad that once everything lands, once everything really settles, and everything's going to be different. Money's going to be different. The way we do business is going to be different. What people buy and pay for, what's worth money, is going to be different. And it just seems like nobody's acknowledging that. That's why I'm sitting there, I'm talking about movies to distract myself, but I'm like, I don't see these things happening. I think Avengers Endgame was the last big movie experience that shared huge, massive experience that I've had all my life. Because I grew up as a kid, like I said, the blockbuster already happened. I mean, Jaws, I was too little when Jaws came out, so, and I wouldn't have seen it anyway, because I was little, but that was the beginning of the blockbuster. So my life has always been about blockbusters, whether I went and saw Lion King. I mean, I saw Lion King at Radio City Music Hall, and the Rockettes were there. You know what I mean? True Lies, all the huge action movies with Stallone and Schwarzenegger, all those event movies, that's what I'm saying, tentpole movies, or whether it was Independence Day, or, everything that came around, the 4th of July, the big weekend. I mean, that weekend has kind of dissipated and it spread out over the year with all these superhero movies and everything, and that was, you know, a great boon and everything. But now it has to be gone, and if it's gone, what are we even talking about? You know? It's so, to me, it's so ridiculous and amazingly, I want to say folly, the way people are talking. I just don't believe that anybody's adjusting to what we've already done, because there's no real going back. And there wasn't any going back the minute we locked down. It's not because it went on for a year. It's because once you lock it down, you can't come back. We're all messed up anyway, just mentally messed up. There was an article that Ellen's show lost 1 million viewers, and they're trying to blame it on the idea that she had some kind of toxic workplace. Come on, I mean, it's Ellen. What's the worst thing she did to somebody? Danced at them? You know, I know she was supposedly not nice, or people, not her, but people weren't nice or whatever. This is the other reason we can't go forward. Cancel culture is built upon the idea that humans are too sensitive to deal with anything. So you have, I don't want to say a whole generation, because I think some older generations are now taking advantage of the situation. You have millions of people who can't handle anything. You can't say words to them. In that way, every actor will get canceled. Every movie will get canceled. They'll have to put them on the shelf. They'll have to put them on hold. I mean, like, they just pushed back Black Widow, right? I never understood why the hell she should have her own movie. I don't know who the hell Black Widow is. I know it's Scarlett Johansson, and just being Scarlett Johansson, I mean, she's had amazing success on her own. So yeah, you can make a movie with her on her own and it'd be a huge blockbuster, but lately, you know, I love Woody Allen. Guess who else loves Woody Allen? I mean, and when they came up with this, another one of these hit job documentaries, you know, on HBO Max, of the, what is it called? Allen versus Farrow, or Farrow versus Allen, whatever. What happens? Scarlett Johansson starts trending because half the people want to look at her picture, but the other half want to cancel her. And that, yeah, I like her, but I'm never going to get over the fact that she won't, you know, hate Woody Allen, which she won't. So if they don't cancel somebody directly for something they did, they cancel people for not hating someone else that they already canceled. So how the hell, apart from having completely brain dead actors and actresses who just say what's in front of them and don't have any opinions and no personality, how are you going to go forward with movie stars who may be in the wrong political party, who may, you know, not necessarily go along with everything that you're supposed to go along with? How can you have, I don't know, I did that. How can you, I mean, how can you put the money and the effort into a star, or put that, have a starring vehicle for someone, if they've ever done anything in their life that the woke mob will find a problem with? Because they invent new problems all the time. So you could put a movie into production, finish principal photography, and now they made a new rule that your star broke 20 years ago, but it wasn't even a rule when you went into production. I mean, I just feel like the world either is changing or has changed. I think it has changed, but the media, not, I don't want to say most people, maybe half the people, a lot of people aren't acknowledging it, aren't accepting it, or they think that we're going to be able to continue on or go back. I don't think most normal people think we can go back to exactly how it was before. But I think a lot of people think they're going to have some version of what they liked before, where it's going to school and, going to college, living in a dorm, or, all that stuff is now. I don't see people doing that. I don't see people going back to living in dorms. I don't see kids going to high school the way we all went to high school. I just feel like with their shit with this virus and always shutting things down for the testing, whether the virus was to mutate and become really bad or not, if they're just going to go based on testing and cases and how many cases and this number of cases, so we have to lock down. I mean, last year around this time, they were hoping that the hot weather would see the number of cases go down. I don't even remember if it did or not. But it didn't clear up. It didn't go away. So, and then you have the president came on today, did his press conference, and people were acting like it was great. And I watched it. I didn't feel like he said anything. But again, I mean, here's the man in charge, and for me, he also seems like he's talking about things going back to some kind of normal, and I'm like, it can't, and it worries me. If the people, if the leaders, the government, if they're just pretending they want it to go back to normal, fine. But I get frightened thinking that they might actually think that's possible. They may not have a real plan. They may not have the agenda I think they do. They may really believe that somehow we're going to go back to going to McDonald's and going to the movies and, being in college and, all the things that people do when the economy is good. They may think that that's going to happen again. Because sometimes you see economists come on and they say, oh, it's going to take us a couple years to recover. I'm like, well, when's that recovery going to start? Because there's no end in sight, as far as I'm concerned, to what we're going through. So I think that humankind at this point needs to decide on what the new normal is and start to build it, and stop hemming and hawing and opening up and closing down. So that, I mean, if you don't do something and come up with a plan soon for everybody, then I don't know what, I mean, if there were going to be riots in the street, if people were going to go crazy and have a revolution, they would have done that last year. So unless everything's rolling to a stop, or eventually enough people will take themselves out of the situation, or enough people will die from, one strain or a new strain or a strain that hasn't even happened yet, or what, I don't know, because on top of everything else, I still believe, like I said, there's stories being hidden. There's stuff we don't know that's happening that nobody's telling us about. And how would you find out about it? Like I said, there's no word of mouth anymore because people aren't talking to each other. I try to ask people about stuff. Nobody knows anything. Because I'll get on the bus, I'll, ask bus drivers and stuff like that. Nobody knows. I asked them about bus driver stuff, and they're like, there's no news. And I'm like, how can there be no news? Because there's got to be a plan, and there isn't one. And there needs to be a plan already. There should have been a plan. I mean, when this new president came, he should have had a plan. And if he has one, he hasn't let us in on it. So the stuff you see on the stuff on the border, did they plan for that? It doesn't seem like it. So I just feel like the people who are trying to plan are planning like we're going to go back to normal, and those plans aren't going to work. People should be planning for ahead. So honestly, like, say I'm a film studio, right? Because this is what we should be talking about, is movies, because that's what I'm mostly interested in. Say I'm a film studio. I'm a film studio. And I want to decide what to do next. I'm going to finish up the movies that are sitting around, and I'm going to not put anything into production for like a year. I'm just going to use the crap we already have. Let that stuff stream. Finish up any movies that were half done. Let all that stuff stream. If I want to pull out old titles and put them up on the services and stuff like that, do that. But really just give it a year for everything to play out and see, are there humans left? You know, do they still have eyeballs to watch movies with? Is there still electricity so that people can use their, you know, have we been invaded by aliens? Are we all living in a pile of rubble? Give it a year before you start greenlighting this and greenlighting that. Because at this point, you're just throwing money around. And even studios shouldn't be throwing money around. Nobody should be throwing money around. Anybody who wants to spend money in the next couple of years, all the rich people should just be trying to help the poor people, because their money won't be worth anything if it becomes zero. I said this a million times. If you have $1 million and the person, you know, around the corner from you has $1, and then the economy crashes and the dollar becomes worthless, 1 times 0 is 0, and 1,000,000 times 0 is 0. You guys, if the economy crashes and the dollar were to become worthless, you and the poor person you just kicked are now going to be worth the same amount of money. So that's why, no matter what they think, rich people still need poor people if they're going to live in the society we have where there's dollars and you pay for things. If they have planned for a whole new society that doesn't include us, I just wish they'd do it already, because I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of being in suspense. I'm tired of not knowing what's happening. Just, you know, rip the Band-Aid off already, because I don't see us going further. You know, if we are going further, it's got to be a whole different world. I mean, there are earthquakes, there are volcanoes, there's all kinds of stuff going on that says to me this isn't just media driven or, you know, some conspiracy theory agenda thing. This is something that is happening without people's influence, you know, because I mean, Iceland, there was like a bazillion earthquakes and then a volcano erupted, and I'm like, is Iceland even still there? You know, and there's been earthquakes everywhere. There's been we had the ridiculous weather in Texas. Our weather where I live, it hasn't been horrible, but like I said, we had the power go out 3 times in the last year, and that happened rarely in the past. We had a lot of cold, and like I said, my own body doesn't seem to want to deal with the cold anymore. I think the climate is changing in a way to make not climate change, let's, you know, save a tree or whatever, or clean up the ocean. No, I think that regular weather is making the earth inhospitable to humans. I mean, Texas was the answer, because in Texas they weren't prepared for that, because they didn't have to be prepared for the freezing temperatures like that, and then it came all at once. That can happen anywhere. You can get earthquakes where you never had one. A volcano could pop up that you thought was just a mountain. You know, things can happen anywhere at any time, and I feel like that's what we're in. And instead of people, you know, acknowledging the tumultuous and era change, because people want to say, you know, people just worried about this goddamn vaccines. I think we're changing eras, like, you know, I don't know the order, the old ones, but, you know, like Paleolithic, you know what I mean? Like that, where it's going to have to be different. Humans are going to have to evolve physically, not just, you know, pronouns and stuff like that. I mean, humans are going to have to evolve into a stronger species to deal with the inhospitable planet. We're going to have to, or at the very least, like I said, fix all the structures, fix all the buildings. It's kind of too late at this point, but it's going to have to be a whole new way of life. So even thinking about stuff like movies and everything, it's kind of like, part of me feels like that's already the past. And we should be looking forward to, not looking forward like yay, I mean looking ahead and planning for the horizon, and God knows what's out there. So let's make ourselves sturdy enough and self-sufficient enough so that we can deal with whatever weather catastrophe, or, you know, I don't think we have, anybody's got their brains on what I consider the reality of the situation, that we must, everything people want to discuss. You know, I watch Russell Brand's YouTube. He's sitting there philosophizing, you know, like he's a, you know, philosophy major. And I'm just like, all these things which were interesting a couple years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, all these things, they're the past already. And we need to have we need to be talking about new things. We need to be thinking of the future if we're going to have one. Talking about race, even gender, all these topics, they're actually old already. We should have our minds on, instead of watching superhero movies, we should have our minds on trying to be superheroes. Trying to take normal humans, not Superman. Don't call me a Nazi. Okay, that's not what I mean. But trying to make ourselves, not just physically, not just mentally, have ourselves evolve into the next kind of human. It's got to be spiritual. It's got to be physical too. We have to be able to be in the environment, but we need to be strong, not weak. We can't, you know, become dependent on drugs for any reason. We can't need electricity. We can't need, you know, a grid or anything to be taken down by weather. You know, if we can't survive without heat in the winter and, you know, air conditioning in the summer, then we can't survive. You know what I mean? So we've got to quickly figure out a way for us to live and have structures and be humans that can emotionally and physically handle the world to come, which I feel like it's already here. And everybody's still, like I said, everybody's worried still about the civil rights movement or equal pay for soccer players. And it's like, I just think that world is gone. And the people who are still trying to plan for some version of that world are going to waste valuable time and resources when you need to be getting ready for the future, because it's here. And I'm not saying I'm going to survive. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm ready to leave because I feel like a relic from the olden times. The things I liked are gone. I don't see, I mean, unless I somehow have to be around to explain things to people, I don't see a purpose for me. I don't see a role for me in the future. But if I'm still stuck here, I won't know why. If everything crumbles and I'm there to help pick up the rubble, maybe, but I don't serve a real purpose right now. I've already said I feel obsolete, so I'm ready to go into the junk pile. But for humankind, people need to get with it quick and fast. And it's not going to be scientists. Like I said, it may be, you know, astrophysicists, but it's going to be quantum theory. It's not going to be let's go into the quantum realm to hack China or stuff like that. No, we need to get spiritually based, what is it, the God particle, you know, that road. People need to meditate on their navels more. They need to align their chakras. They need to, you know, stop worrying about being a vegan if you're going to be stuck on a planet where you might have to kill your food because nothing grows. People need to be more fluid and stop trying to define things and put themselves in a group. People need to just be, people need to be ready for anything. I'm not that. I wish I was. I meant to be that kind of person, but because I stupidly was not able to be somebody who procured money like normal people, it held me back from being able to be the person I wanted to be. So I'm beyond not ready. I'm mostly decrepit, and I mean, there aren't, like, they don't make the parts to fix me anymore. You know what I mean? I'm that much of an old machine that the fan belts or whatever, they're just not manufactured anymore. So I don't know. I just feel like people need to get with it and get with it fast and stop worrying about the bullshit and arguing on the internet and needing people to say all the right words to you and stuff. And people need to, I don't even want to say come together. People need to just get with the program, start thinking about worst case scenario futures, start thinking about black swans, start thinking about all the horrible shit that can happen and plan for it. And then acknowledge the fact that you're still going to miss something. You know, because I sit here and I try to distract myself just like everybody else. And I try to talk about nonsense just like everybody else. But deep down, I know that we're in a time of tremendous change. It's changing, like the earth shifting under our feet. And we're arguing about the Snyder Cut. And, you know, and some people are trying to tell themselves that it was good. And we can't lie to ourselves anymore. We can't lie to each other anymore. We can't. Humankind can't. You know, unless this is the end of humankind. And then at that point, who cares? Let it all crumble. Let's watch the world burn. You know, but I get scared when I think about it because I know I'm not ready. Like, just when I think about it just now, just saying that, like, I started to feel like my shoulders were weak. Whenever I feel like I can't handle something, I get weak in my arms. Like, I'm not going to be able to fight. I'm not going to be able to push. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, my arms get weak and it's like, I got to just lay down and die. I don't have the sense that something's coming, though. This is the worst part. It feels like it's just drifting into nothingness. I don't feel like there's a meteor headed towards us. I don't feel like there's some planet-killing asteroid. I don't feel like there's going to be a major event anymore, because I thought the major event was the pandemic. And I thought that was going to set up an economic collapse last year. The fact that this is dragged on, the fact that the pandemic wasn't what it should have been in terms of killing people, the fact that the economy got ruined, but we're all still buying shit. I mean, and it's not ruined in the press, but it must be ruined on paper. I mean, if anybody is trying to balance, you know, do a balance sheet, do some bookkeeping, there's no way this can come out. So I still don't understand that. So for me, I thought everything was definitely going to collapse by last September. And we just keep hanging on. But what do I want to say we're hanging on by a thread. We're hanging on by our fingernails. I don't even know what we're hanging on by. That's how messed up it is. That's how lost I feel in terms of knowing what the hell is going on. And if nobody knows what the hell is going on, how can you figure out what the hell you're supposed to do for tomorrow? That's why people look at me. They see a fat chick who's just sitting here brushing her hair, who, you know, wears the same hoodie for days because I was washing them in the bathtub. I haven't had money to splurge on laundry. So I've been washing things by hand. I mean, with the stimulus money, I just washed all my, you know, thick stuff, my jackets and, you know, comforters and stuff like that. But in terms of clothes in the house, I've been washing it by hand, and it's hard to drip dry hoodies. So I change the t-shirt, but I wear the hoodie for a week, you know. But That's about all I can handle. I can't even handle, going through the house and throwing things away. Getting ready should I have to move. I can't handle anything. I can barely get up and go out, do the daily errands, come home without being, like I said, completely exhausted by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't handle anything anymore. So how the hell am I supposed to plan for future when it seems like it's going to be insurmountable odds and it's going to be physically taxing to live in a world where you can't depend on the heat, you can't depend on the government, you can't depend on science, you can't depend on your fellow man to have common sense. It scares the shit out of me how peaceful I am in my core about it, because something could happen to me tomorrow and I could die of panic, die of fright, because I'm so not ready. I'm so not ready. When you scare a baby, they don't know about being scared. So they go, woo, and they fall to that could probably happen to me. Anything could happen. Somebody could call me tomorrow and leave a message that would send me to a mental ward. Or, they could try to make me get the vaccine and I could end up kung fu fighting them and be tased to hell and then given a vaccine I don't want anyway. Or they could, make me get tested and put the chip in my head. I definitely want to die before that happens. I definitely want to die before the mind control thing. So how do you plan for that? How do you plan for when do you, what, if you're hanging on to the last minute, or they're not going to be like, okay, we're coming with the MK Ultra now if you want to go, do something before we get there. They're not going to tell you. I'm scared, and I'm so tired of being scared that I'm in this, it's not even apathy. It's like I'm too tired to put in the effort, to put in the physical effort to worry. So I rest, I lay down, I do what has to be done on the day. I don't make any forward progress. I watch the whole world. I've watched so many people on YouTube and Twitter. Everybody moved. I thought I was going to be moving over a year ago. I'm scared to move. I don't know what the hell to do. I have no idea what to do. The whole world changed on me. I can't force myself to want anything. I feel stuck. I feel so stuck in my own head in this world that I don't understand anymore, and I have no idea. I'm still going outside with the wrong outfit on. I'm still going outside with a hoodie on and then baking to death when I checked the weather and thought I needed it, and then the next day, because it was hot before, I won't wear the hoodie and I'll freeze and I watch the news all day. So I see the weather, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. And I still wear the wrong thing. So if I can't even wear the right jacket when there's a weather report, how the hell am I supposed to prepare for the unknown when I don't have any skills? I've been atrophied as a human for years and years and years, being put on the bench and left there. Sidelined in the game of life. Now all of a sudden I'm supposed to have survival skills and know how to be Rambo and shit. Because that's what it feels like. A survivalist, or what do you call them? Prepper? I would have been a prepper had I had the resources. I would have been that person. I always wanted to get a fireplace and wood stove and stuff like that, so that if things like what happened in Texas happened, I'd be ready. I knew so many things in this life, and I wasn't able to be ready for them. Nothing. I could have planned from it. It just never linked up. What I wanted to do and what I could do never linked up. And that's why part of me is like, I resigned myself, and I feel like, why are you knocking yourself out? Like today, I got sick. I had stuff to do. But I heard all the messages from my intuition. I heard things saying, stay home, don't go out. Stay home, don't go out. Not because I wanted to be lazy. I was being given hints that I shouldn't leave. And then what happened? Like I said, I walked home for 20 minutes thinking I was going to poop myself at any point. And I knew the whole time that I had gotten so many messages to stay home. But in my head, I had to get something done. I had to do something. I'm trying so hard to float. I'm trying so hard to let go. But this world, like I said, the ground shifting underneath your feet. How are you supposed to be like, oh, the ground shifting underneath my feet? I'll ignore that. I'm not a person that ignores things. My mom was. And it used to drive me crazy. And it's like, I don't want to be like that, but I think you have to be. If you're going to survive, you literally have to be Mr. Magoo. You have to just let it ride. I've never had that kind of personality. I'm trying to do it, but I don't want to be like that. What if I'm wrong? It doesn't matter anyway because I can't do anything about it. This is going to be an hour. I had some feeling that was going to happen. When do they say, no, you can't have videos that long? You're not important enough. I don't know. Didn't it used to be like that a long time ago? I think that's why I'm thinking that. Anyway. So. The world scares me so much that I'm in a stupor of kind of like resigned. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. I feel like the most genius idiot in the world. I feel like I know all the kind of stuff other people don't know. But yet they can do everything I can't do. I'm the smartest dumb person on the block. I don't know why nobody else gets it. Or nobody else I talk to gets it. Everybody else just wants to get the vaccine and they think they'll be safe. And they just want to hug their grandkids again. Could have hugged their grandkids the whole time, but anyway. Alright, I'm stopping this. Because I don't know how to stop it. It's like I don't want to leave a party that they wanted me to leave half an hour ago. An hour ago. 2 hours ago. Later.